All right, episode 160. Today, we're talking about, look, you got listings, they're not selling, so we're going to talk about how to sell them. And I have to give a special shout out. Otherwise, he said he would leave me and my brokerage, Corey Meals. We're going to get started right now. All right, episode 160. Look, you got listings. The market's turning. They're not selling. People are frustrated. They're canceling. And we're going to talk about how to get listings sold right now. This is obviously a hot button topic. We're hearing a lot of real estate agents are frustrated right now, and so are their sellers because they expected their home to sell quickly, right? Expectations weren't set. And so as we go over how to get listings sold today in this market, we have to thank our sponsors really fast. We'll go through this real quick. So if you are working with buyers, right, interest rates are high, use mortgagemikeoftexas.com, mortgagemikeoftexas.com. He is one of the best lenders here in Texas and Oklahoma. Ask him about his interest rate buy down programs. He can show you how to get low interest rates, as well as maybe you're working with some landlords who have rental properties. Maybe you know of someone who's looking to get into investments and they don't want to manage their own properties. Get them over to Homeward DFW, the best property management company here in Dallas. And what's the last one?
Armadillo.one/tour for the hard shell protection program. That's Theron Smith over at Armadillo Home Warranty. They cover all of our listings, and I think Nick's too. They do a great job. Yep. So check out Armadillo.one/tour, TORE, for all your home warranty needs.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about how can we get your listings sold, right? So you run a listing appointment, right? You set that listing appointment and you're excited. You go run it, and they say yes, Brian.
Let me ask you this. Is that still, from my perspective, is that still happening quite a bit? I don't think we've gotten to the segment of the market where people are not wanting to sell. I think that we're still taking a lot of listings.
Sure, taking a lot of listings. There's for sure. I mean, our listing inventory is up. The listing inventory up in the Dallas-Fort Worth market is up. It's up 3 times what it was at the beginning of the year. Yeah. And we'll probably continue. Like, I'd be interested to see how September plays out when we get the October numbers, or when we get into October. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to kind of see, normally September, October, November, we see actually a decline in listing inventory.
Yeah.
If we're going back into that quote unquote normalized market. And could that have a play in maybe seeing, temporary bidding wars come back?
Well, you're going to get seasonality no matter what's going on in the market. I guess what I was kind of referring to is, like, it doesn't feel to me, we're having some conversations like this maybe, but it doesn't feel to me in general like people are like, I'm just not even messing with the market right now. I'm not selling or anything. Like, we might have some of those, but I still think we're taking listings, which is awesome.
Yeah, we're taking them, but Kelderman, you're doing a lot of expired calls. We had call night last night. We're starting to hear that. So we're actually starting to hear, I'm going to wait for whatever's going to happen in this market.
Okay, yes. You're hearing that from people that already tried to sell with an agent who probably didn't have very strong conversations with them, which I think is exactly what we're going to get into today. I think that's always true, though, right? When you're just talking to expireds, it could be the hottest market in the world, but if you're listing expired, a lot of times you're going to have a high percentage of bitter people.
So, in for sale by owners, right?
Yeah.
So, for sale by owners, like what I'm experiencing a lot with for sale by owners in this market is they're actually very moody. Really? Right, they're very short-tempered.
They're probably getting hit pretty hard right now.
Probably getting hit hard, but they're like, all the information. If they answer their phone, by the way, they're worse than real estate agents. For sale by owners, they're not answering their phone.
That's just part of what you talk to them about when you call them, is you tell them the stories of how terrible they're going to be.
Yeah,
at this job.
Yes, and so they're like, oh, all the information's on Zillow. You can just go to Zillow. I'm like, okay, well, great. So can you tell me a little bit more about, what's your time frame of selling? Just go to Zillow.
Yeah. You're like, you're the worst salesman ever. what are you talking about? What if I was really interested in buying your home?
Yeah, and so, I mean, those objections really are starting to come up. But
And you have the seasonal objections too, right? Like you'll start running into those in the next couple of weeks. The holiday objection, the fictional 4 month of holidays that we go through from apparently October 1st till mid-January.
well, you can't sell during Halloween.
No, not at all. And that one day of Thanksgiving and the one weekend lead up to Christmas just
No
makes it
one's ever
impossible.
bought a home in December. That's of objective fact.
I love Q4. That's my second best quarter almost every
Everybody
year.
else stops doing everything. We talk about this at team meeting a lot. Guys, I understand that first crisp fall day, everybody's focused on college football and the holidays. Most agents have just taken a knee on their business the second that the air gets a little chilly.
Well, and
so
I
you
think-
can really pick up their business if you're working hard.
And I think that's what you're going to start seeing more than anything. We talk about this every year around this time, the amount of agents who just aren't going to renew because real estate just wasn't what they thought it was going to be. That those first quarter dues tend to be 3 quarters all put together. And if you're already on the edge, last thing you do is go pay that, right? Now what's happening, though, is you alluded to it earlier, the level of conversation that it takes to set proper seller expectations. I was talking to Logan about this on our coaching call. He was talking about how he got in the industry earlier this year, at the beginning of the year. So people were already kind of adjusted to the bidding wars by the time January rolled around. But he was working with buyers when it was really difficult to get buyers under contract. And now he's in a market where he's working with a lot of sellers where it's hard to set seller expectations properly because the market is moving so quickly and interest rates are moving and everybody's seeing different things and the news is saying different shit. Nice, Danny. I think that's incredibly telling, though. An agent who doesn't understand, that the market is trending away from probably their seller expectations in almost every major market, that, especially here in DFW, and they're unable to set those conversations. That's why you're seeing a lot of listings still coming on and why we're seeing crap loads of price decreases. Tons of canceled, tons of buyers not happy or sellers not happy with their agent at all.
Yeah.
Right? Doing the 1 week listing or the month-long listing and getting absolutely nowhere with it and ejecting super quick.
That's actually a good point to bring up, and I'd like to understand maybe your mindset around this because both of you guys, because you talk to a lot of expireds, and are you getting as many conversations as you're getting people that are I'm not even messing with this market now because I'm so disappointed? Aren't you getting just as many conversations that are I wish my real estate agent was just honest from me. I don't care about the market as much. I need to sell. My other real estate agent is an idiot and priced it way too high, didn't do shit, and I still need to sell.
No.
We're getting a ton of those.
No.
I think
We're taking a massive amount of expireds right now that have that mindset. Yeah.
You have to get to that point. Though.
Okay, well,
so
that's fair.
Yes.
So yeah, they're not. You have to dig that out.
I did have a lady the other day ask me why her house didn't sell, and she said, "Because my agent's a bitch."
Yeah. Yeah.
I should have taken a drink right
Relax.
Yeah, but so what? I'm talking with a guy right now who, his home was he listed it twice, canceled it, and he definitely over improved for the market, and his appraisal came in $60,000 low, and now he's lived in this home since 1999, right? He probably owes I think $250, $240 on it. The guy has a ton of equity. So his initial thought process is I'll just refinance it, do a cash out, pay down some debt, do a little bit more upgrades on the exterior, replace my ACs, etc. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, look, if you do that, you do a cash out refinance interest rates are always a little bit higher than what rates are. So we're seeing a lot more higher rate.
Yeah.
And you go take that money and it would be a lot better if your goal is to downsize from this house. It's going to be a lot better. Look, it doesn't feel great to sell at that lower price because you had a contract higher, but the appraisal is this. It's going to take, we're at a gap of about $50,000. We're not going to make that difference up in the next year. It's probably not going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years. So why don't we sell now? It's obviously a great home and get you into something that's more manageable. And you're still capturing that equity that you had since you built. You did a refinance in 2018. You're good.
Yep.
And no one's had that conversation. He's had other people come out and they're wanting to charge high commission rates. Then he's like, I fell over, at some of the rates that these realtors are charging. And he's so focused on that part versus everything else. He's like, one of my options is I'll just sell it on my own and I can absorb the hit. So their mindset is they're taking the loss rather than this is the way the market is. And so we're taking the long route on it and showing them Can I show you exactly where this market is? Can I show you where we're headed? Can I show you that right now we're seeing buyers now getting quoted 7.125 interest rates? Like, what do you think happens over the next 6 to 12 months? Do you think we see prices actually increase, or do you think prices are going to dip a little bit and then we hit that like a more stable price range?
Yeah, and that's the conversation to be having up front before you take the listing if you want to actually sell it. And we're talking about what to do to get your listing sold. Guys, it's that simple. There are only 4 things that affect a home's ability to sell: price, location, condition, and marketing. And right now, there's only one. It is price. We've talked about it on this podcast since last year. When you bring this much liquidity into the marketplace and prices run up like this, the music stops, guys. It's called irrational exuberance. Check out the tulip craze in Holland in the 1600s. It is exactly the same. People overpay for stuff because everybody else is overpaying for stuff, and eventually people run out of money to pay for the stuff. And then you raise interest rates, prices are going to soften. Now, we're not like, the good news is that softening comes from a position of high equity, and so the pullback is entirely manageable. People have 41.6, quote me on this, Jesse, $41.6 trillion nationwide in assets, homestead assets, and only $12 trillion in debt, which is a 25.9% loan-to-value ratio. It's the highest amount of equity that homeowners in America have had at any point in history. Let's go to Keeping Current Matters. I didn't do my own research. I just read that blog. I'm not trying to.
Should have told everybody that.
Yeah, sorry. It's like the first one on Keeping Current Matters. Let's actually, before I keep going, let's just see this really quickly because it's like literally the first one on the blog. Yeah. You go to the blog. There we go. Here we go. Okay. They fucking blog like every day, dude. It's too much.
Yeah, but with that, while he's looking that up, with that is someone commented on here that people hate to lose, money more than they like to win.
What it is.
And then we're good. That's where I want to go with that and how to have the right conversations, right? So here we go. $41 trillion in owner-occupied real estate. That's just owner-occupied. It doesn't even include investments, so it doesn't include institutional assets under management either. Just $12 trillion. That's 29.5% LTV. That's really good. That's the lowest since 1983 loan-to-value. That means you've got equity. That means the pullback, if we're talking, because I want to set the stage for having realistic conversations with sellers, because you're right. What we're talking about is it doesn't feel good to lose. That's your objection to overcome. You want to get your listing sold in this market, overcome the objection of how someone is feeling and get to the objective fact of they are still winning, Charlie Sheen style, if they've owned a home for more than 3 years.
Yeah.
Is Charlie Sheen still winning? I don't think he is.
No.
Okay. I think he stopped that.
I think he's done winning.
Old analogy.
The conversation starts on the phone, like Nick says, though, right? It's not even about setting the proper expectations. It's about educating them about what's currently going on, right? Because it's not just about interest rates. That's a buyer. I like having that conversation more with buyers and sellers. I honestly, I understand it's relevant to sellers, but the amount of potential opportunity lost in equity that by not taking advantage of this market just to wait for something else to happen, right? Well, I was talking to. I'm going to keep quoting Logan, our coaching call, but he and I were talking about this with a potential, like he has a listing on the market, right? They built the property themselves. So they're sitting on quite a bit of equity. They're still probably about $50,000 away from their actual market value where they're going to find a buyer. They're sitting on a ton of equity. The house is now
they're sitting on a ton of emotional equity.
And that is the other thing too, is but now the house has become a source of anxiety and pain. They're not purchasing a new house, right? They have all of these things moving kind of alongside each other.
That's for damn sure.
They still have all of these other items that their life would just become easier. And those are the conversations, right? Like it's showing people, it's just like you would do with a buyer if you're trying to pin down where they need to be. You would figure out why that's important to them. Because then later, when maybe you do price it a little bit above them to show them the market doesn't exist, you can come back to that conversation. Or if the market continues to decline, be like, this is exactly what we were talking about. Prices in so-and-so have went down 14% in the last month. It's trending down. Right? Like whatever that conversation looks like, being able to educate them up front is a huge part of being able to get it sold further down the road.
And look, once you've taken the listing, there's two things. You could have already set yourself in a frustrating position out of the gate by taking an overpriced listing, right? So now what you're doing is you're just delaying to have that conversation.
Just talking about that.
And when you're delaying that, there's two things that could happen. If maybe they're not as rational thinkers, then their frustration is going to build, thinking that you're not doing your job, even though you probably have explained it up front. Maybe you've done a good job up front and saying, all right, you're really adamant on this price, let's try your price. And then in 2 weeks, when if we don't have any attraction or have any high interest on it, then you agree to do adjustment. A lot of times they say yes. Then in 2 weeks you say, all right, remember that conversation? Like, no, I don't remember that.
What are you talking about?
Yes, and so then you have to reignite that conversation, and a lot of times it's a lot more frustrating on your end.
It definitely is.
And you're having to go show data, right? If you know that pricing, a lot of listing presentations have this, even the ones that you can just go buy a listing presentation, pre-made one, and they've got the pricing pyramid that says if you price your home up here, it's only going to capture 5% of the potential buyers. But if you were to price your home here, now you're capturing 70%. Would you rather capture only 5% of the available buyers or 70% of the available buyers? Which one's better?
That chart's badass, but here's the thing is, I think the market has been moving so rapidly, and this is what I believe real estate agents are really running into, is their inability to forecast where the market is going and price homes towards it, right? One, we're working off data that's 30 to 45 days old anyways when you're just talking about the comparables. And then you're trying to, if your business isn't where you need it to be, you really want to get that listing, you want to do good for them, you're coming from that place to begin with, right? And now you're advising probably from a space that isn't in your best. It's not that you're advising from a place that's going to benefit you, but you're not advising from a place of real knowledge about where the market's going. If you don't look at the trend report on your MLS, you may not know that prices in certain markets have taken a big dip in the past 2 months, right? If you have that information going in and you're able to talk to the sellers about it confidently up front, it eliminates all of that bullshit later on down the road and that fear that comes along with having to have those super difficult conversations, which frees agents into inaction, which then make you look at the dues at the end of the year and think that you can't pay them, and now you're inside your own head about whether you can do this or not, and then you quit the whole business. And that sounds dramatic, but literally the type of anxiety that piles up around listings that don't sell when you think you're doing a bad job for a seller who's disappointed in you will take real estate agents out this time of year.
This is something that we've been having conversations with, especially with the cancels and expireds, is saying, look, unfortunately, your real estate agent may have only been in this business less than 3 years. And maybe they haven't sold as many properties, right? So the last time that the agent that they hired or that maybe they're interviewing maybe sold one at the beginning of the year. And so the agent's experience is based off of a very small number. And it's based on a past that's not happening right now. Yeah. And so they're advising based on their experience, that agent's experience, and getting that homeowner excited about what they can do. Yeah. Right? And that's something that we've really had to learn how to ask better questions so that we can not come from where we have to be careful we're not talking bad about that other agent because we don't do that, but two, like, we don't want to come off as just shitbagging on them.
It doesn't work anyway.
It never works.
It doesn't work.
Because what you're telling them is that they screwed up by making a bad choice, and you're offending them.
Yes. Yeah. And so ultimately, it's saying, look, this experience is something based on 120 days ago of data. Like, you're getting. It's like trying to predict the news or the forecast and saying tomorrow's it's going to be 100 degrees when you're reading, August newspaper weather, the next 10 days of the August report, right? And so it's like you're just getting bad info. You're getting bad intel. And that's okay. Like, you believe them. They did a great job of showing you that they thought they were capable, and they just, unfortunately, they didn't deliver.
The silver lining to this, though, is the data is not out of your reach. The reason that people don't give it is because they're just not comfortable delivering it. Yeah. I've got to imagine almost every single MLS has a monthly trends report, just like we do, where if you're going on a listing appointment and it's in Farmers Branch or name your suburb, right? And you go in there and you look at what prices have done for the past 90 days, you're going to go in armed, I promise you, with more information than almost every other agent who's walking through that door, who that agent probably isn't even coming through with any material to begin with. You're coming through with your regular shit and knowledge. You're going to increase your ability to take listing and get it sold down the road regardless, because they're going to know, like, and trust you.
I mean, that's the thing. You've got to, I know this sounds tough to say, or easy to say, tough to practice. You have to detach yourself from the outcome. You have to be able to deliver information in an objective manner, professional manner, and detach yourself from the outcome. And I know that's tough when you only have a couple of deals working or maybe one deal working. That's why, guys, we talk about this all the time, and we especially been talking about for this year, like, don't get fat and happy. You need to be working on your business every single day and taking massive action. And this is why, because you're seeing this year how quickly things can change. And you need to have, you still have an opportunity to put yourself in a position where you have a pipeline full of business, and you can come from a place of, I'm going to be a professional and give you objective information and help you make the right decision for you. And if you don't, I'm not going to get emotional about it, because my job is to be a servant, but I'm not going to freak out over this one deal because I work on my business every day.
Well, your coach, actually, our coach talks about this.
100%.
Matt and I's coach talks about this, is that your sales goes to zero at midnight.
Every day.
Every single day. So doesn't matter what you have pending. Doesn't matter what you have on the market. Your sales goes to zero at midnight. It starts all over the next day. And like you said, is the fat and happy is that people get to a point like, man, I've got 3 pendings right now. Well, I can tell you right now that if their interest rates weren't locked,
One of them's falling apart.
It could absolutely.
Easily.
Or they try to go renegotiate on a deal that could just completely screw it up. Or you've got buyers who are really overanalyzing this market and maybe not really understanding the residential market as well.
Sure.
And they will just completely eject, regardless of what the contract says, leaving you in a bad spot, leaving them exposed to maybe legal issues.
Yeah.
And now you're stressed out about that. Now you're not getting paid. And it
Paid
all
when you've done all the work. Like
That is
think
the
about
thing,
this,
working
real
for
estate
free.
agents. You don't get paid until your job is done. You guys, we all love to say that to people to like give them assurance, like, "Hey, you can sign this buyer rep because I don't get paid till I'm done."
get paid till we do
I
our
gotta
job.
That's really cool to say. And then when you do all of the work and don't think about this, if you get a deal pretty much to closing, we all know what that is for your each specific market. Once it moves through all of those places where it normally falls apart,
Where you
and
feel
then-
solid.
and then that deal falls apart and you have to do it again, you just cut your commission in half.
Yep.
You did all of the work, and then you had to do all of the time cost of the work again, right? So, and I'm becoming more and more convinced that pendings is actually a really shitty way to judge your business. I know we all celebrate pendings. We do it on our team as well. The reality is, in this market, pendings, like you said, if those weren't already under contract and locked in, those people may not be pendings at all. The only thing that matters is the appointments that you're setting currently with people who have current understanding of the market and are willing to engage with this market.
I think appointments are a better measure.
They 100% are, and we've implemented this. I'm not stealing this, but I mean, as a real estate agent, if you're an individual agent, you should just be focused on setting 2 quality appointments a week. These are not coffee dates with your fucking friends. These are not that guy who doesn't really want to sell, but you just browbeat him into it, and you know you're going in there and he's gonna jam you up on commission. These are legitimate appointments with people who want to talk about the buying or selling of real estate. If you do that twice a week and are able to consistently do that, you are going to be fine. More than
Better
fine.
than fine.
You will be
kidding me?
one of the top
How many
agents
real
in all
estate
sorts of
agents do you
markets,
really
right?
think go on 2 appointments a week?
Oh, not very many.
Less than 5%.
Not, that's look. It's like the 3 pendings a month thing that everybody just throws around and says make it really easy.
Yeah, I'd
But
like to do like 3 deals a month.
But if you're not doing 2 a week, or you're not doing 4 a month, anything is better. And just changing your mindset to the appointments upcoming with the people who have understanding in this market right now. I might say something different if interest rates drop by 2% and we're back in a weird bidding war in 4 months, right? Like
that's temporary though. That's
It
Yeah,
would be
we
temporary,
won't
but my
be.
advice for
Like-
that day would be a different thing. I'm
Yeah.
saying right now in this market, you need to be engaging with buyers and sellers who understand that sellers' advantage currently right now is decreasing month to month. Who knows how that'll change? And that buyers' purchase power has dropped dramatically from where it was 6 months ago.
Well, and I read somewhere in this will pertain to how to get your listing sold, because getting listings is the first part. Like if you don't have any listings, you don't have to worry about getting them sold, right? And so do you need a cold call to build your business? And I'm going to tell you, the last 2 years, absolutely not. You didn't have to. But I have a lot of agents now reaching out and saying my sphere, my database they're not responding. And I was making a great living the last couple of years, and now I'm not. And I don't know where my business is coming from now. And ultimately, the next phase is becoming that skillionaire. And we had call night for the first time last night in years. Like we actually dropped call night when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And because we used to be religious, every Tuesday night was call night for us. And I stayed. It was from 5 to 7, And I got on the phones with them, calling for sale by owners. Like, that's my kryptonite. And I'm calling them, and I'm like, I'm very weak at for sale by owner conversations. I want to get real aggressive and just be like, you're going to sign the paperwork. I'm going to come out tomorrow, and I'm bringing the paperwork, Matt.
Better be there.
And so, because I know you're going to love what I'm going to have to do. Like, they're like, no, I just put it on the market today. So I'm really happy about this. And from that is you have to make the calls daily. Like I'm going to up your 2 appointments a week. I believe that right now in this marketplace, you need to find 1 appointment every day.
100%.
Because if you only work 5 days a week, you're setting 5 appointments. Out of that, how many do you think are actually you're going to run?
You're going to run 2.
50% or less.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
Right? The rest of that's going to go into a chase. And then from there, you're going to sign, you're probably only going to convert 50% of those as well, because you're probably not working on your conversion skills. Yeah. And then you're going to bring on maybe 1 to 3 clients a month, And then from that, depending on the expectations, you may only sell 50% of those. Or buyers that you're signing to a buyer's rep because you're all excited. You're like, I'm going to take off today. I signed a buyer's rep. Like, you didn't even get them pre-approved yet, so you don't even know what the interest rates are. You signed a listing, great. How far overpriced is it? Because you just took it, and then you're going to try to beat them up on price later.
Yeah. Signed listing agreements aren't paychecks?
Not anymore.
Can you do a commission advancement on
Commission advancement on a signed listing agreement?
That could be a whole scam.
That's a
Get
new
yourself in trouble with
business.
that one.
Yes.
Hard money loans on signed listing
Yes,
agreements.
but that's ultimately, number one is like, and I'll start working on this with this and start sharing on the podcast every week is while we're doing these calls, I'll share everything that we're doing because the objections are all the same.
They're all the same.
It's all the same right now. And anybody who thinks they're going to go do a cash out refinance right now, once they see the rate, they're not going to do it. Nope. Right? They want to pay off debt. Great. Now I know the motivation. Yep. Right? Let me go show them their equity gain versus them waiting out a couple years, especially because we're in inflation, maybe even headed for what Brian and I talked about, a stagflation market.
Yeah, which is going to be tough. But that's actually okay. So I want to get into that because I think we talked about really diving into that, and I want to get into the conversations we need to be having to make sure our listings sell. And to preface that, I will say this, and this might be a little bit of a hot sports opinion. We've talked a lot about agents not being able to have strong conversations and coming from a little bit of a scarcity mindset and being fearful and stuff. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this out into the ether. So it feels like I'm talking to you, then maybe I am. And if it doesn't, then just don't listen to this, right?
Just look into the camera when you're saying
If you're not having strong conversations with your clients that are coming from a place of objective fact and data and setting real expectations and helping them find their price point in this market and get things sold, guess what? You are part of the problem. Because what I mean by that is the worst thing that can happen, not just for real estate agents, by the way, the worst thing that can happen for the United States economy and housing market at large is sellers and buyers have a completely divergent idea of what a fair and balanced market looks like and what a fair and mutually beneficial deal structure looks like. And when you have buyers that say rates are too high, that's bringing affordability down. And then you have sellers who are listening to millions of real estate agents that are too, pick your bad word here, whatever, to say the market is different, prices have softened. Even if you drop your price, you're still coming out way ahead of the 5% national average appreciation. Don't be behind the market. It's not going to bounce back next year. Drop your price. Let's be reasonable and make a deal. If you're not able to have those conversations, you're actually leading to a longer dragging out of an imbalanced market. You're part of the problem. You actually might be the main problem. You might be the main problem. We're economic advisors in the real estate space for our clients. If you're not having those conversations, you're actually making it worse. Do better. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything else on that one. But I agree.
I do agree. I think I've said this for years, and I think this is just an umbrella over all of it. As real estate agents, we have the greatest ability to affect how people are going to continue to see our industry going forward, right? If we continue to go out there and act like people who are chasing commission checks, or not say continue, if that is what you're doing, even if you're doing it unintentionally, right? Coming from a space of knowing you need to be educated about something and not taking the proper avenues to educate yourself about it is just not being a good fiduciary, which is something you signed up to do.
Yes.
And at the very least, understand that people are entrusting you with something they don't do very often, that was most likely the most expensive thing that they own.
Yes.
Right? You kind of owe it to them to know as much as possible about any scenario that's going to affect their ability to make money.
And we do know. That's the thing. We do know, right? If you're a doctor and you're afraid to tell people they're sick, you're part of the problem, man. You just are, because you're not giving them good advice. I had a conversation with one of our clients on Monday. Okay, this is a listing that we have. Providence Village is a suburb of North Texas, right? They priced it at a price point that a year ago or 8 months ago they probably could have gotten. They are moving. They're moving out of the Metroplex. They already have their home under contract, and they they're needing to sell. I will actually just use real numbers because I'm not using real names. They bought their home in 2016 for $230,000. At 5% historic national average appreciation, their home would be worth $308,000 today. They listed at $390,000. We're not getting enough traffic. It really, in my opinion, needs to be more like $375,000, $360,000. They were a little bit hesitant to drop the price. Conversation I had was simple. I said, look, if you watch the news right now, you understand that there's nothing that I'm going to say right now that's going to make you feel good in this moment. What I'm trying to accomplish here is to make you feel good at closing day, because you'll see in between now and then that what I'm saying to you is the reason that you hired me, and that's to protect your best interest. And you're really going to be happy next year when you see that nothing has changed either, and you don't have 2 mortgages. Here's what's happened. If you sold a year ago, you would have sold during the tulip craze. Everybody was overpaying. People ran out of money. They're not overpaying anymore. Right now, if you drop your home to even $375,000 and you sell for even $360,000 or $350,000, I need you to give yourself permission to not see that as a loss. I need you to give yourself permission to see that as a $40,000 or $50,000 gain that you would have had over what you normally would have sold this home for if we were in a balanced market. If I had told you in 2016 when you bought this home for $230,000 that you could sell it for $360,000 6 years later, I know that would have been a win for you. Am I right? Yes, of course that would have been a win for you. So you can make the decision now to do what your fiduciary is telling you to do and cash out on that equity, move down to where you're moving down to, and put that money in your pocket. And next year, and it might take you a little while to see that I'm giving you the best advice that I'm ever going to be able to give you in this market, or we can continue to go through this stressful time day after day after day, hoping that things turn around, even though you and I both know they're not turning around anytime soon. So let me do my job and allow me to help you. And give yourself permission to not see this as a loss. Give yourself permission to see this as a gain. Logan just put up a great comment. Irving went up 45%, came down 25% really quickly. That's a 20% increase, 4 times the historic national average for 1 year. That's a fucking win. You need to be able to have those conversations and see it as a win, and be able to put your sellers in that mindset. It's not easy, by the way, but what's worse is inaction.
Well, the biggest thing is what the takeaway from that, whether you use that wording or not. Two things I would be careful to say. By the way, I don't believe that people overpaid for houses last year. That was the market. So I don't necessarily believe in overpaying, because in order to compete, that's where the market value is. That's what a willing and able buyer is.
Yeah,
that's
and that's the wrong way for me to say. That's how I kind of phrased it. But those same people, if they're there for the normal 5 to 7 to 10 or whatever years it is, they didn't overpay. They're still going to gain.
Yeah,
so,
If
you're ever buying a house as a homestead and selling it next year, you overpaid by default, because you shouldn't have bought a house in the first place. It's a longer term play.
I just want to be careful with people's wording about overpaying, because that sets people up on a kind of the wrong mindset on that. But where you're right on that is in order to have that conversation, though, you need to actually go research the data. Where most people just go sign a listing, right? They're like, oh, I just looked at some numbers, and I looked at 6 months ago, and then we should price it here. I'm going to take, maybe I'll pay for photos, maybe I won't. Whatever it is. Let's say you paid for photos, you sign them, and you're walking away. You're already calculating in your head your commission check. With what? You're not doing anything, right? Maybe you do an open house. Maybe you brag about it on Facebook, and you're like, look what I've just did. I just signed this. There's no research involved. And so the breakdown that you should listen to what Brian just said is use that script. Actually, it's really great, and understand it, but it's more so taking the data and the numbers. If there's anything you can take away, as long as you have that and say, if you were to buy a stock here 6 years ago, and you were to go and you were wanting to sell that stock, and let's say that you noticed that the stock hit record highs, and then all of a sudden it started falling back. Would you still be happy if you sold it at a profit versus what you paid for it? Well, yes. Okay, it's the same thing that you're having here, and there's a reason why you're wanting to sell, right? So you're telling me if I got you a price here, you're willing to accept that price. You're not just doing it for the money. There's a few people out there that only wanted to sell for the money, and then they would go figure out what their next housing solution is going to be.
It's a small percentage.
And
Small.
I've stopped hearing that objection, right? Like when we're talking to about expireds and cancels, the people who were like, I was just trying to get there was a really small window where that happened. That objection has almost went completely away.
Yep, so that's gone. And so now it's like, okay, let's just say we can hit, and this conversation actually is not even once you take the listing, it's before you're running the listing appointment. Let's say we can hit the price that you're wanting. Where are you wanting to go? Why? Why are you wanting to go there? Why are you wanting to sell right now? What are you looking at doing? What are you wanting to do? Ask the question so you can get deeper on that, because those conversations allow you. And here's what I would probably recommend, because if you're like me, that if you don't write it down and store it in a CRM, you actually forget the conversation you had.
100% will.
And then, or you start mixing them up, and now you look like a doofus.
Yeah.
Where I've like, oh, you were wanting to move over to Minnesota, and like, no, I'm just moving down the street. I'm like, oh, that was the other person. I'm so sorry.
You're my buyer too.
Yeah, yes. Right? And so the conversation is once you start having that, and then you're like, what did you pay for the house?
Yeah.
What's your payoff right now? How much money have you spent in upgrades?
By the way, that's not an unreasonable question to ask somebody who is asking you to sell their house, what they still owe on it and what their interest rate is. At that point, that's no longer personal information. Like, you don't go give it to somebody, but you should have it.
Right? Like, the financials do matter when you're selling an asset. It's important for the fiduciary to understand the financials.
I don't know.
It's not inappropriate.
I haven't heard people push back in that in a while. Like, how much do you owe? Like, it used to be.
I think some agents just are afraid to ask it because we have all this
feel
weird
weird
mentality around talking about like money and religion with people.
Yes.
Right? And it used to be politics. We don't give a shit about that anymore.
Yeah, we got over that.
Yeah, but this is a reasonable place for you to have that conversation.
So from that, though, it used to be like pre-COVID and really up till COVID, it used to be like, what's your payoff? Why does that matter to you? Right? That would be a lot of that would be I would be like, well, I need to know that. It'd be best for me to know that so I can calculate your net returns, because I'm going to come and give you a multiple scenario option so that when you hire me, you know exactly the routes we're willing to go to, right? Because I don't want to just take you down one path, because what if that path is wrong? Now you're not going to hire me, or I've just set all of us up for frustration if we run into that path and we find out it's a dead end.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I want to take you down multiple paths to set the right proper expectation. If all three of those that is acceptable to you, then great, we're on the same page.
Yep.
And that's where I take them down. And I just have that conversation. A lot of people come in with fluff presentations, like it's pretty. Yeah. They've got all these pictures. I'm like, are we looking at picture books here? No, I'm having a true conversation with you. And that's what I tell them. I sit down and say, look, I don't come with anything fancy. Like, I am the fancy. Yeah. And I'm just showing up in jeans and a polo shirt, right? But you're going to hire me to get the job done. Yeah. I'm going to sell your damn house, and I'm going to do it to get you the price that's acceptable for the marketplace. Yep. And I'm going to get you to point B, which is where you're wanting to go. Does that sound fair to you? Well, yes. Okay. So we've come to a decision. If you don't want to hire me, tell me why. Well, you're too aggressive. Like, we've had people where they say,
I guarantee you guys have heard that. I guarantee you guys have heard that.
I'm like, so what you're telling me is that you want someone that's really passive when it comes to selling your house and getting you the best price for your home. To me, that's that you're hiring me to sell your house.
Go hire a kitten.
Yes. Say, go hire a Kelderman.
Yeah, exactly. You want somebody to hang out and be friends with?
Yeah. Can we hang out? Once you hire him, we'll hang out.
Kelderman will stay here for 2 hours. He don't even bring paperwork to sign. Send it to your ass later.
But that's the point. Is like, look, the topic of this is how to get listings sold, but I'm going to tell you, like, if you're sitting here like, oh, crap, I got listings. I didn't even ask these conversations. I didn't even ask these questions. Like, now you're operating from behind. You've already, and it's hard. I'm going to tell you, it's a lot easier to have the conversation before you have the listing than once you've already set the tone.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, let me do this, Jesse. I know I can get, I'm going to do everything I can to get you this price. Yeah. And then a week goes by.
All they hear is you're going to get me this price.
Yes. It's all it is.
And then a week goes by, they've had one showing or no showings, and they think they're like, I looked at Zillow. And
I've got 17 saves and 275 views on Zillow.
Yeah.
They're like, why hasn't my house sold?
Yeah.
They're like, or why don't you call those people? Because I'm not Zillow.
usually
I
I've been
don't know how to call them.
You know what I've been telling them? Like, how many times have we hit refresh on Zillow? You're the 275.
Yeah, you're
people,
just
right?
doing it all morning.
Yes. Like they're the worst stalkers of their own properties online.
Yeah.
Right. And so how many times have you had someone call? It's like, I don't even see the change. I don't even see we're on Zillow yet. We're like, we just listed you 5 minutes ago.
Do you think hasn't even syndicated yet?
Yes.
Do you think that? And I actually mean this as a legitimate question because I think that we're talking about agents not being able to present information well, and I think that's because a lot of agents don't have, like, they don't do their research and maybe have good information. Do you believe that maybe some of the reason that agents have trouble having these conversations is they don't fundamentally believe or understand that, like, guys, it's still a great time to have owned real estate and sell it. Like, you're not giving people bad news.
You
right?
want to know why
Like,
I think these are hard conversations for people to have? I honestly, I think, and I don't think this speaks of anybody, it is hard to come from an employee type mindset and move into a we are working together to get this done.
Yeah.
I do think a lot of agents, especially if sellers aren't something they work with a lot, they feel much more like an employee who is not doing what they're told to do, and they're afraid that their boss is going to notice.
Yes.
Or afraid to kind of have that conversation of, it very rarely comes up where it's ever aggressive, but I do make it very clear that we are working together to get your home sold.
I think that's
a mutual
perfect.
relationship where we're both trying. I am putting my faith in you that you are going to move forward, be a reasonable person, take a reasonable offer. That's why I'm doing all of this shit before the check shows up.
Okay.
And you are making a reasonable assumption that I know what I'm talking about based off the things that I've told you and the social proof. I think it's much more, this is the thing, we get stuck in it. Like, now that as humans, most of our base survival needs are met, right? Most of us have a roof over our head.
Yeah.
We have food. We have clothing on our back.
Likely not going to be homeless.
The most of the fear is no longer fear of survival. We think it is.
Right.
But it's all fear in our head, right? It's
Yeah.
just all this stuff that's stuck in our head that convinces us that they're going to get mad at me. They're not gonna, and we think it needs to be some grand traumatic thing for it to affect us. It's actually not. It's the thousands of times a day that we feel uncomfortable, that we're worried about the outcome.
No, because you built. So actually, I'll give you a
That's
prime.
so true.
Actually, you're 100% because I'll give you a real life example that happened this week. Is Nate had some clients that are purchasing a home. So this is going to the purchase side, but this will affect kind of the mindset when it even comes to how to get listings sold or how to have conversations with your sellers. Is he's negotiating over seller concessions, right? And I'll be careful what to say on this one. The listing agent wanted to do some things that were not up to the sniff test of making sure that it was kosher. And
little gray.
There's more, a lot more black than it was gray. And so, Nate was like, I don't know how to tell my clients this. And I was like, dude, you just do it, and explained the entire situation. He did it he called the husband first and then the wife. And then he comes back, he's like, those conversations went much better than how I anticipated them.
Every time.
So it's kind of like when you're in a relationship, if you're married, an argument's coming. You've already had the argument in your head.
The whole way home.
Yes, and you've gone so deep on it that you're actually ready to file for divorce in your head. And then you get there and it's like, man, like you're so exhausted from arguing with yourself.
Yeah.
That it just doesn't go
you don't
anywhere
even
near
wanna
what
do-
it was.
Who's the out of Key and Peele? Who's the director?
Jordan Peele.
Peele.
Okay, so
And
Peele.
Key.
And so I heard Peele on this thing the other day where he was talking about horror movies. And I think this is the same thing that we do in our head, right? Like, think of the horror movies where they show you the monster relatively early, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're so much less scary.
They're not good.
Yeah.
And you're essentially, by having that conversation, you're showing yourself the monster. I said this on the Little Rock call today. You know why Jaws was scary as shit? Because you never saw that shark.
Saw him, yeah.
You didn't see that shark the whole movie. And then when you did see it, it was lame. But my point being is, like, it was just the sound. It was just the music. That's the same thing that's happening in your head. It's just the sound.
Wasn't there a book of how to do this, like eat the elephant?
Eat a frog.
Eat a
Eat
frog.
an elephant. Eat a
Or
frog.
is it eat a
No,
frog?
eat a frog
Eat the
is like
frog.
at the beginning of the day. I think elephant. Who knows?
How do you eat an elephant?
Anecdote is how to eat an elephant.
Yeah,
one bite at a time. But then it's like eat the frog in
Eat
the
the Frog
beginning.
is the book.
Yeah.
And those are both cool. And I think the imagery is like, oh, hilarious. I can understand it conceptually. And it's not anything that's ever really going to happen in your
Right.
life, right?
Well,
Like,
but the point is, like, if you had to eat a frog, like, are you going to wait all day and
course.
build it up and be like, no, you're just going to just get it done?
Yeah.
You guys, I mean, we're all making the same point. I think to Claire, like, that's such a good way to talk about it. it's like we have this like subservient mindset that like we don't like to tell our sellers things that we have decided they don't want to hear. It's the same thing as like, I'm not going to do it and make it weird because the camera's on me, but like if I were to smile at you, you would smile back. If I was to start laughing, you would probably smile too. Like energies match in that same way, right? It's the same thing with showing the monster too early makes it less scary because you already understand and like you feel what's happening, right? I think one of the biggest things that we have such a problem with in real estate is that we don't view our relationships with our clients, like I said, as a partnership. It feels like I'm telling you. It goes back to what I was saying before. Like I think that we fundamentally believe that we're delivering bad news, guys. If you're telling your folks that they need to price lower right now to get their home sold, and they have owned their home for any substantial amount of time, you're not delivering bad news. You're delivering objective news as a partner, and they're still winning. But we feel like we're delivering bad news, and then we approach it from this very mousy place, and then guess what? They don't react well because you've made it something bad.
Well, it is just, and we're way off in some sort of like meditative mind space now, but really is no good or bad attached to this, right? It is just data. Whatever energy is attached to it, the individual, is attaching that energy to it. I would even encourage you to say almost every time that I have had this experience where I've either not delivered information or delivered it later or just decided to deliver it up front, the worst outcome has always been trying to hide from it.
Yeah.
Right? The second best outcome has always been missing the mark, but then apologizing for it. The best outcome has always been getting ahead of it, right?
Exactly.
The client is always way more cool with whatever is happening, right? Even if it was a legit mistake on your part, by owning it, right? Every single time. Any attempt to kind of avoid that conversation, move away from it, if it doesn't lose you the business, it loses you any future business, that's for sure.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I don't know how we wrap this up.
Other than a hypothetical.
Oh, yeah, I mean, a hypothetical. Just before we do this, we talked about a lot of stuff today, guys. One, the market is never good or bad. It's just the market. Your conversations can be good or bad depending on how you approach them. If you're smart, you do the research and you approach your clients like partners and deliver them objective news that, by the way, isn't good or bad. It's just data and feedback. You're going to win in this market. You're going to sell listings. And by the way, you're going to win in this market or any market. And if you're not, because I'm going to say this again, it's a hot sports opinion, but it's true. We have too many realtors out there. Don't be one of the ones we don't need. For real. Don't be part of the problem.
Think of it this way. Money changes hands when problems are solved. So become the problem solver, and then you're going to earn the paycheck. And that's something that we've done over and over and over again. And if you go back and re-listen to this, there's a lot of great information on here. There's a lot of things that you're going to dissect of go understand the data, go research the trends, and who needs the most help right now, right? Where's the low-hanging fruit in your marketplace? Those could be distressed sellers. Those could be people that are getting divorced. Those could be for sale by owners. Go think of that.
I love that because I think it also, that thought process should kind of drive you towards what your particular unique value proposition is, right? Like I think Coach Birch calls it your selling proposition or whatever. I can't remember. It is
unique, your USP, your unique selling proposition.
Yeah, and so like everybody has one. You got into this. You've sold some houses. You've heard some nice things about yourself. Go focus on that part of what you do, and just be willing to get a little uncomfortable and make sure that you understand it's not really going to be that bad. Even when people cuss at you, guess what? It's still your business. Just hit the little red button on the bottom of the phone and their voice goes away.
Every single time. It's undefeated.
It's undefeated. And guess what? If they call you back, ignore that shit too.
Exactly.
All right. I like the ghost one.
I know it's kind of
vanilla.
I think if you have an answer, it might spark something in my mind.
Here's my thing. Okay, so here's the question. If you had to be haunted for the rest of your life, but you could choose the ghost that would haunt you, who would it be? And so my mind immediately, I've not settled on an answer. My mind immediately starts thinking to some sort of entertainment situation, right? Like, I don't necessarily want to be haunted by somebody who like not Gilbert Gottfried, right? Like that would be the most obnoxious entire thing in the world. So I'm trying to think of like some type of musical situation that I want to move through my life with, right? Because here's how I envision like my perfect world, if my heaven or whatever, if I just get to go to this one specific thing that I made up. I would be surrounded by like the breeze of like a 75-degree day. The temperature would be perfect all of the time. Yep. Whatever that smell is that I can smell when I feel my best, it would be that smell. And there would be music, and you can almost replicate this part in real life with the music, but it's like the AirPods feel immersive, but they're still in your ear.
Right.
I want the music to surround me. So I'm trying to think of like who that would be. Maybe it's like maybe it's all the members of
Biggie back
Enya.
behind.
You want?
Maybe I just want Enya to follow
Yeah,
me. Is
you-
Enya a person or is that a group?
I think it's a.
I think it's a person.
I would like all of Enya to
We
if
gotta research this.
I would
We
like
just got
all of
that wrong.
Enya to just follow me around, sing that.
Irish singer-songwriter.
Right? Oh, you're right. It is a person.
Okay, it's a person. I want her. Is she still alive? Go back. How do we end on that?
Is
Okay,
yes.
she's alive. I do not
She's
want her to
alive.
die, but when she
Don't
does,
die. She's
I
only
want.
61.
Yeah, and she's from Ireland too. Like I think that would be the area where this place would exist.
By the way,
and I
this
would
said
want-
haunted though.
Yeah, I mean, like
Are we choosing
I
our
mean-
definition
Yeah,
of
I
haunted?
think we have to choose what haunting means.
Yeah, because
This-
also.
you're using heaven as haunted.
No, I mean, look. I mean, I think.
Like
I
if
mean,
I could choose my heaven, it'd be
I think
75
for some
degrees.
people
I would be
having-
haunted with 75-degree weather, perfect weather.
the ghost was the haunting part. I think for some
Okay.
people, if they were being followed around by Enya for the rest of their life, they'd be super pissed.
Well, for sure.
That could be very haunting.
Yeah, it could
I'm
be
not going to
bad.
pick a bad haunting. I just pick. That's what.
I don't. I can't. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know who
If,
I
if
would
we're
be
getting to
on.
pick our heaven haunting,
Yeah.
it'd be
Heaven
like
haunting?
I'd probably do some comedian.
I played
something.
fast and loose with the rules.
Yeah.
I wanted. There was one other question on there that just kind of made me feel
All right, throw it out there.
weird.
Is it, it's
Not-
not the one that Jesse highlighted, is it?
Which one did you highlight?
You could be invisible, but fart loud.
No, that's very funny too.
Freaking hilarious.
No, there's this one around like go down. It was like if you could for $100,000, would you go a month without showering or changing your clothes?
Absolutely.
And I
Who says
one
I don't do that already.
No, I wouldn't. Two, like
You still have to go do everything.
No,
It's
can
a
I
no-
still brush my teeth?
it's gonna affect
just
your
hit shower.
bro. I'm gonna tell you
Oh,
right now.
okay.
In your line of work, if people saw
God,
you
dude.
for a month straight, smelled you, and you were wearing this,
and you can't tell them that you're going to get $100,000. You just have to roll with it.
Yeah,
Let
I
us
think
know
it
what
would
the
affect your relationships to the tune of more than
Nah,
$100,000.
you could save it. No, because you can save it when you come back. It's cool.
I only bring attention to this question because I just hate the way we think about money in this culture. Like, I just hate the fact that people are like, for $100,000, I would go without bathing. You're like, just fucking relax, dude.
I would.
Just,
I am
Here's
relaxed
the thing: it's harder to not shower than it is to just go out and make $100,000, bro. Just do the work, dude. I'm not even
I did
trying
the
to
work
make
by
this
not
funny.
showering.
I'm
I
not even
just-
trying
I-
to make it funny.
Just
When
think
we're,
about how,
when we're
like-
off camera, I will
Bro.
prove Brian wrong from a conversation that took place in this very room less than 2 weeks ago that we are not going to talk about.
That wouldn't take a month. And it was more.
I knew that's where you were going to
That
go.
wouldn't take a month.
I would do. Here's why I would do it just because I would like $100,000 would be nice.
Yeah.
But I also feel like there would be some effect, like some positive effect to like your skin and your hair
Yes.
by not using the soaps and
And
detergents.
it didn't say you can't jump in the pool.
Okay, you guys are trying to game the system.
That's not
I'm not
gaming.
saying. Okay, listen. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it or like I'm going to think about it. I'll take it back. Maybe I would do it. I'm just saying we have such this like barometer of these challenges where it's like we're working real estate. We're really you can make $100,000 a month if you show up and talk to people that you already know and make new friends. You're like, well, would you go an entire month without cleaning your body? Like this is such a fucking weird way to think about making money. Like we just have. I'm just drawing attention to these strange hypotheticals.
We went
for
from
money.
billionaire ideas to Brian logically breaking
Yeah,
down
no.
hypothetical
I'm just-
questions.
It's like,
Like,
people on
it
Fear,
makes me
Fear
sad.
Factor that was willing to go eat.
That
ridiculous-
is okay, dude. And that for like, look, even Joe Rogan, who hosted that, will say this. Like, the show should not have been called Fear Factor. I don't think that not wanting to eat giant desert roaches makes you fearful. It's just gross.
Yeah.
Like, there's a difference between jumping off a cliff, which is scary, and that'd be like Fear Factor. Jump off this cliff, you might die. Eating like a tarantula is not Fear Factor. It's just a gross thing to do.
I would have
and
never
half
made it
of
on
the
that
show is gross shit,
Yeah, I would
dude.
have never made it on that show.
I can't believe they got some of that stuff signed off on. Like, how do they check those bugs for diseases and stuff? How do they know you're not going to fucking choke on it? Because
don't.
it's disgusting. It's
Sign a
just-
waiver for sure.
Oh, lots of waivers.
You know who doesn't have waivers? Homeward
Armadillo.
DFW.
and Armadillo.
And probably Mortgage Mike.
I think they all probably have some sort of waivers. But
Yeah, they
Armadillo.
probably do.
He's a one-page contract. So
That's true.
armadillo.one
Fronts and backs.
/tour. Then you go over to Mortgage Mike, get that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval, mortgagemikeoftexas.com. And then, look, for your best property management here in the DFW area, maybe Oklahoma, right, Brian? Is homewardDFW.com.
we put so much stress on the rest of the company with our silly ideas.
Yeah.
I think it's just funny just to like throw grenades out there and let her wonder which one's going to explode.
Yeah. Matt?
That's all we got today. Catch you guys next week. Bye. Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one. Then go to that one. Thanks.